Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of Veterans
Rant, Rattle, and Roll. I'm Sergeant First Class Retired David L. Parker, and boy, I'm excited to be here. I have not been this fired up about talking to a guest in a long time, even though the show has only been around for a couple of months. Today, I have the privilege of speaking with former Marine Tom Reber. Hey, Tom, how you doing?
What's up? How you doing, man?
I can't complain. When I do, Household 6 tells me to shut the hell up. So, you went in the Marine Corps at what age? Tell us, rattle your sword a little bit, Tom. Tell us what you do.
Oh, man. God, well, that was a long time ago, man. I'm 51 now. How old are you, man? What are you, like?
Older.
63? How old are you now?
53 going on 54.
I just turned 51. So I got out of high school, grew up in Wheaton, Illinois. I had the privilege of having a youth football coach and a high school football coach that were both Marines. And and it's funny, looking back now, my cousins and I, we always grew up, we playing guns in the yard as little kids and stuff. We always played Marines. We never said, let's go play Army. We always said, let's go play Marines.
Well,
I don't know why.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, I think one of our uncles or something was in, but distant uncles. So we, I went to Quincy College right out of high school to play football. And Dave, I realized that when you go to college to play football, you actually have to do the college part. Like
no, stop it.
And, yeah, shit like that. And so when the season was over, I basically had to quit college because I was failing everything. And honestly, my heart wasn't into it. I'm just not a formal education guy. So I love to learn all that other stuff, but it just wasn't for me. Went home through the winter. I built decks for my uncle's buddy, and this is outside of Chicago when it was nice and cold, and I'm digging post holes in the winter. And then it was around tax time, and my stepmom took me to this tax appointment. I had to claim my whopping $4,000 I made that year or whatever it was, right? And
thousandaire, man. So you got to start out as a thousandaire.
Yep, and two things happened. At that tax appointment, this guy had a picture on his desk of his son's boot camp picture.
All right.
And I just noticed it. We didn't have a conversation. I just noticed it. And then about 2 days later, one of my buddies, Mark Williams, who I hung out with quite a bit growing up, he showed up at my house. I hadn't seen him for months, and he showed up. He was in shape and skinny, and he was a Marine. And he went off to boot camp, and he just had this different air about him. And I said, let's go. So I joined. And, within a couple months I was gone, right?
Right.
And so went to boot camp, and I served 4 years. I got out in 92, Desert Storm guy. And, I was 0311. I was with Bravo Company, 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, out in wonderful 29 Palms, California.
Wait, what do you mean wonderful?
Yeah, well, come on, man, embrace the suck. So we, but yeah, so that's, and I tell you what, the foundation of having football coaches that I grew up with had a massive impact. I mean, honestly, I got to boot camp and it was kind of easy. At least the physical part was and stuff, because I had, and a little bit of the mental was, I had 2 Marines growing up, and it was, nothing was a surprise. It was just like I was back at football practice. And they were great coaches, nothing crazy, but just learned a lot. I had a good foundation of hard work and resilience and stuff like that. And everything I've been able to go through, the last, God knows how many years it's been. I'm not mathing right now, but I think it's like 30 years.
Real
like
close.
that I've been out of the Corps. And, and it's like another lifetime ago, really. But I've carried so much with me just as a leader and as a man, and, just a sense of pride that I know we all have for, those who've served, right? Anyone listening to this has that pride in their service, in their branch. And so, yeah, it was a good ride.
Cool. So let me think. Since I was in the Army and don't know anything about Uncle Sam's misguided children, isn't there like some kind of competition every boot camp cycle or something?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a competition, but at the time that I went in, the you see all the recruiting pictures. It's this dude who looks squared away in dress blues, right? Well,
Yeah.
you find out pretty quickly that not everybody just gets dress blues. You go to boot camp and the honor grad of your platoon and company and stuff, he's the one that they award these dress blues with. And I was like, I'm a little type A and a little competitive. And I remember going, well, I can't come home and not have the dress blues. That was just my mindset at the time. And so I went in, and this was back at a time when our parents could walk us to the gate at the airport and all that stuff.
That is a long time ago.
Yes, it is, man. And I remember my dad took me to the airport, and we hugged goodbye, and I was walking, down the aisle or towards the ramp or whatever it is. And I remember turning around, and he was probably 20 feet away, and I pointed at him, and I looked him right in the eyes, and in my exact words, the next fucking time you see me, I'll be wearing dress blues. And I turned around and I walked away. And I actually, that's probably when I really learned the most about visualization, really putting a goal on your radar, being obsessive about it. Because I'm like, if I don't finish first in this thing, I'm going to be, I don't mean devastated like in a negative way, but I would have felt like that I had just totally underachieved. And so, I don't know, a few hours later, whatever it was, we're on the yellow footprints in San Diego, and then we're what is it, asshole to belly button or whatever we used to call it. See, my memory's great, it's just short. And we're sitting there, we're like crunched up, and there's this guy right behind me, alphabetically, and his name's Dave Reda, R-E-D-A, and I'm Reber. And he whispers in my ear, he's like, I'm going to get the blues. And it was like, I'm not even there, I don't know, a couple hours, and I got this dude in my ear going, the blues are mine. And I'm like, let's go. And it was me, him, and this dude named Zamora that we just competed on and off. One of us was always getting fired, and rehired. And I really believe it was just a matter of the way the timing worked out of who got fired and stuff, because there was one of us that was doing it. I just got to be the lucky one, I guess, at the end, who was the one standing. But that really did. Some guys are listening here right now, because I have buddies that give me shit. They're like, "Oh, you were the guide and the honor man. You were everyone. You were kissing ass or whatever, right?" I'll tell you what, that did something for me. That many years prior to that screwed me up in my head. And that was, I never thought I was smart. I rode the yellow bus, the little short bus, when I was in grade school for a couple of years. I came from a family that had a lot of turmoil in it, with divorce at a young age, and you name it, alcohol, gambling, drugs, jail. It was that was that. And I kind of just written off the whole thing that I could go out and do anything special in the world, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I had a lot of confidence, even though I was a really good athlete and stuff. I was a terrible student. And Dave, I needed that. I needed, you call it God, the universe, whatever. Something out there knew that this guy here needed that moment to kind of open my eyes to the fact that I could actually accomplish some things that are pretty cool in this world. And it's been, and it taught me a lot of lessons. I certainly don't look back at it and relive the glory days like a lot of people do with, their high school days or whatever. It was a 3-month flash in the pan, right?
Yeah. In
my life, but it really helped start to build my confidence in myself and things like that. So right. And it's been, and listen, my son, my oldest, Dakota, he just graduated boot camp in June out in San Diego. And then he just finished School of Infantry. He was just home for a week. And he, just seeing what he's been able to accomplish and, see how he's carrying himself differently. It's a super proud moment, man.
Cool. Very cool. I'm super excited about that. I look forward to talking in a few minutes more about how you have progressed and what you are today. But, let's spend a few minutes ranting about something. Is there anything in your 4 years of service that you really remember was a rough time or just a good time? Just something. You got anything that we call it the rant phase?
The rant phase. Dave, it was so long ago.
Yeah, I understand. There's nothing pops out in your head?
I think because I went into it just expecting, it's the suck.
Yeah.
So I was never really surprised. There were moments, I served at a time where it wasn't as bloody and violent as it is for our, you and people like that. I was before that. We had a couple little skirmishes in Desert Storm and shit, but it wasn't crazy. Not a whole lot to rant about. I mean, it's the typical grunt bullshit, right? You're just
right. Now I
remember being on a hike once, or hump we used to call it, and it was we're on this hump, and I look over, and we're in 29 Palms, and here's our battalion sergeant major, and he's like right next to me, and I'm like, why the hell? He's doing the same damn thing I am. He's just got a few more stripes, right? And
right.
It's like, so that was kind of, there were some awakenings there, but I don't have real complaints about the Marine Corps at all, man. I'm proud of it. I think, we're, I guess if I had any rant, it'd be a self-imposed thing, man. I went in to be a force recon guy, and I really, if I'm just going to call it and own my crap, man, I didn't prepare for the swim. I didn't grow up swimming. I went in thinking I could wing it, and I failed, and I didn't make it. And honestly, man, that's a self-imposed rant. I wasn't prepared, and that's something that also, up until probably about 8 or 10 years ago, God's truth, that would haunt me. Like I failed to do that. I didn't make the cut, and all this other shit. Everything else I was great in, and I had a lot of head trash and guilt and shame and embarrassment around the fact that I didn't do that I carried with me for a long time, and it took a lot to let go of that. And but if I look back now and I go, okay, well, what's the life lesson here, right? The life lesson is you got to fucking prepare.
Right.
I was talented enough in certain areas of my life growing up that even though I worked really hard as an athlete and stuff, I was still good. And I think, you and I, we've coached together and stuff. We have those kids, right, that are they're talented. And you're like, God, if your work ethic would match your talent, if your preparation, if your classroom work would match your talent, you'd be unstoppable. And I wasn't like off the charts talented as an athlete, but there's a lot of things in my life I've been able to do with a pretty good degree of success. And that failure of mine reminds me that I have to continue to raise the bar, and I have to prepare and not just wing stuff, because whenever I wing something, I underachieve, and that's unacceptable.
I am not even this much surprised that you don't have a rant at all about anything that you did in your service, and that it's only focused at yourself. That doesn't surprise me even 0.1%. I just know you. You just always drive. I mean, even the tattoo on your arm says so, right?
Yeah, motor. Yeah, it's my little personal mantra, and it's, as you know, for me, it came as a football term. It's just like, you watch draft day and they're like, he's undersized, he's this, he's that, but he's got a motor,
right.
And that's that's my, what is it, Mel Kiper impression. Anyway, but I grew up, in a family where the way to let me be clear here. Like I wasn't like, I had a great childhood. There was a lot of struggles. And like I said earlier, alcohol, all this other shit, but I never not knew that my parents loved me,
right,
and all that other stuff. They were great parents, but the way to my dad's heart was work ethic. Like, it's just how I seemed to get the most attention is you work hard, and so I think that's why just that term motor's always resonated with me. And it's funny, man, I got this, I think it was like 2013, 2014, I finally had it put on. And then last summer? It's 2019, July 4th, 2019, I went and got my other tat here on my other forearm, which is a lyric from a song that has always stuck with me. It says, a dark world aches for a splash of the sun. And so it's funny, like on each of my forearms here, one side is like, hey, you bring that motor, you find a way, right? You got to be resilient. There's always a way. And the other side, it's the reminder for me to, Dave, I can get so goal focused and tunnel vision and kind of like the I don't know if you ever seen the Marine Corps maze meme. It's like that shows the maze and the Marine Corps just kind of like plows just through the maze and destroys everything. Well, that's kind of how I can be if I'm not careful. So the other one is a reminder that, I really want to have an impact. I want to be a bright spot in people's day. And I don't always succeed on that, but it's here to remind me. So,
okay. So
yeah, man.
How about a funny story? How about we get some rolling on the floor? You got to remember something maybe that was funny in 4 years wearing the Marine Corps uniform.
Oh, there's a lot. I mean, there's.
Well, good. Let's hear a no shit there I was comment.
I learned not to throw a grenade into an ammo bunker.
Was it a live grenade or a training grenade?
Oh, it was a live grenade, and it was over in the whole Kuwait thing, and a secondary explosion went off and blew me and my staff sergeant back. We both chucked grenades in. They blew up. There was a secondary explosion that went off. It was like a sledgehammer to the chest, knocked us, God knows how far back. And we're laying there, and he's always a comic, and like my buddy who saw it, he's like, man, all we saw was a flash and a mist and you guys were gone. We're like, shit. And, a couple little nicks on the hands and on the lip or something, it was miraculous. Right. And I'm laying kind of next to my staff sergeant, and he looks over at me and he's like, Reber, and that's how he talked. Reber, please tell me he kind of sounded like Tennessee Tuxedo. Remember?
All right.
So, all right. Reber, please tell me I look as good as you do right now. And I said, well, I said, you look pretty good to me, so I think we're okay. And he said, let's not do that again. And that was
well, at least you learned.
Yeah. There was the same staff sergeant, by the way. We were in cold.
You need to stay away from this guy.
No, he was great. We were in mountain training up in Bridgeport and California there, and they gave us afternoon liberty. And so we walked about 4 or 5 miles down this trail. We heard there was a little bar in the woods, and we ended up staying there longer than we should have. They had to send a Humvee looking for us, and then they wouldn't give us a ride back, so we had our drunk hike through the woods in the middle of the night all the way back, which was good. And we were supposed to have a day off, I think the next day or something, and we got back and still intoxicated, and they told us, hey, we were getting on a plane now and we're going to the Middle East. So that was a nice welcome back. There was a guy named Schultz in boot camp who this is great. He, that was, yeah, no. Schultz was this guy who he was actually hilarious, man. And we're online. It was like one of the first days of boot camp. Our heads are shaved, and probably the first day. And drill instructor's walking by, and he walks by Schultz, and he stops, and he comes back, and he goes, "You are the ugliest individual I have ever laid my eyes on. What the fuck happened to your head?" Because he had this cranium that was like a ski slope on, it was just like a 45-degree angle. And Schultz, without missing a beat, goes, "Sir, this recruit was literally dropped on his head in the delivery room." Like, it actually happened. And the drill instructor says, "Do you have anything else wrong with you that I need to know about?" And Schultz holds up his hand and he goes, "Yes, sir, this recruit's missing his middle finger." His middle finger is gone. It's like his little stub. And so he was just, there's some, Schultz was a good dude. Then there's always that guy that you're in training with, right? And he's dumb as a box. It wasn't Schultz, but he's dumb as a box of rocks. And they assign him to like something like bulk fuel handling,
right?
And shit like that. So a lot of wisdom there in job assignment in the Marine Corps. But no, man, we had some good times.
Awesome. So It's been 30 years almost since you got out. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see Tom sitting in his office. Why don't you let everybody know what it is you're up to now, because you're making a hell of an impact out there.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that whole having an impact is pretty much the number one thing I give a crap about. Whether it's the people that are close to me that I love, whether it's people I don't know, I just want to leave a dent here and have an impact in a positive way. And so, number of years ago, I come from the home improvement industry. I got in the Marine Corps and worked a number of jobs. I actually served as a campus minister at University of Wisconsin for about 5 years.
Shit.
Yeah, I got fired from that. And then, I come from a family of tradesmen and stuff, and my uncle's a painting contractor and taught me the trade. I worked for him when I got out of the Corps until I figured out what I wanted to do. And then one day I started a company, and then we grew it pretty quickly, several hundred projects a year, a lot of great things going on with it, a lot of lessons learned, a lot of throat punches along the way, and everything from, millions to bankrupt and everything in between, and I, on the tail end of that, I got out and I just felt like there was a different calling for me. I sold my half of the company at the time to my old business partner, who's a great dude. And I started just this, I started this, and it's funny, I'm actually wearing one of the shirts that I made.
I see that.
I started an apparel company called Motor Hard. And you know what, Dave? The key to success in an apparel company, do you know what it is?
Producing a shirt?
You got to sell the shirt.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
So I
so
brought
like
all
the
this
restaurant business, you can have the best steak, but you don't sell it.
I wanted to have this apparel company that was this Motor Hard message, like find a way. And again, it's just funny. I wanted to inspire.
All
and
right.
I wasn't making any money. Spent thousands of bucks on inventory, spent a lot of money on website and all this other stuff. And I was supposedly going to go be this speaker and encourage people. And I was thinking about this the other day. I really need to go back to probably the first dozen or so people that ever gave me a chance to speak and refund their money, or at least tell them that I'll come back and do it for free whenever they want me to. Because, I still had a lot of confidence issues, man, believe it or not. I accomplished some stuff and whatever, but had this, what I didn't share earlier about the short bus and stuff, is for damn near 40 years, that ball and chain dragged me around, just going, you're stupid, you're not smart, you can't trust your gut, you can't trust your opinion. And it hurt relationships, it hurt business partnerships, it's one of the contributing factors to going bankrupt long ago, and all this other shit was this crap that I just refused to deal with. And so anyway, some guy calls me up one day and says, hey, I know you were a contractor, built a great company, blah, 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 blah. Can you coach me? And that's actually how I got into coaching home improvement businesses. Is that kind of happened because I wasn't making any money in apparel. And, and so, in fact, 2 years ago, I gave away like the last box that I had. I was just giving shit out, and,
Right.
And I ran out like 2 years ago. And so since then, and I didn't know what to do, man. I didn't know how to build that sort of a company, but I just, I picked up somewhere along the way that you just add value. So I, started a podcast, and,
What's the name of your podcast, Tom?
The Contractor Fight, and we have, 300 and something episodes. I've, got over, I guess, close to 300 or over 300, episodes on our YouTube channel called Contractor Fight TV.
Contractor Fight TV. Got it.
Yep. And the fight came from this fight that we all have between our ears, man. The fight isn't against and I don't care what industry you're in. I don't care what you do. It all applies. The fight is not with the economy. The fight's not with who the damn president is or is not. The fight's not about anything other than what goes on upstairs.
All connected to your operating script.
There you go. And so I just started sharing my experiences and things that I've learned, and really trying to help people. Our mission in the Contractor Fight is to bring respect and dignity back to the trades. We live in this time where I was growing up. If you didn't go to college, you were a loser. If your dad worked construction and had tattoos like mine did, you were embarrassed because all your other kids in town, their dads are doctors and lawyers, and they were, this and that. And that was my part of my trash, right? So I'm not
Yeah.
ripping on my dad or anything. I'm just saying it was my shit. And so I saw firsthand how having a messed up mindset screwed with me,
Right.
and people I know. And then I also saw how it, embracing and choosing to deal with the shit between my ears, how it also flipped my life around in a big way and multiplied everything in my life 100-fold. And over the last few years, once I finally chose to fight that fight. And so that's really what the Contractor Fight's about. We have more free content to help a business owner or a contractor than any other company like mine. Honestly, I can't think of anyone else who does more free stuff than we do. And we just tell people, hey, everything you need is there. If you want to move faster, write us a check and we'll coach you. Right. And so, I've been blessed to just build an amazing team there. And that branched off into a company, sister company that I also own called the Contractor Sales Academy, where we teach people actually how to sell in a way that is unique and connects with, your clients, instead of just showing up and telling them how great you are and then wondering why they don't hire you.
So once you got everything a little more squared away between those ears, rewrote your operating script, life changed.
100%, man. And it changed, this whole short bus thing weaved in and out of my life. It's like a bad rash.
Yeah.
You think you have conquered and it shows up again. And here's the other thing, at the time I had a marriage that was going down the hill, and, it's been an ex now it's an ex. I had, issues with business partners in the past. Even though we had a good business, I wasn't totally being myself because I didn't trust myself, because I always thought I was stupid.
Right.
In my relationships that I mentioned, like I wouldn't share what was really my opinion because I didn't want to be judged for being stupid. Like it was all running through there. I wouldn't take shots that I really knew to take in life. And then the other thing is, well, then what happens? Bankruptcy shows up, and what does that do? That just confirms I'm stupid.
Absolutely. I went through
what I mean? So all these things that happen in our life, and so I was invited to be like this breakout speaker at this event in Cabo San Lucas a number of years ago. And I think it was 2 or 3 years in a row, my buddy who's on their board of directors invited me to come speak. He's like, I think you got some good stuff to say to these guys.
Right.
And it was and I'm like, and for the first 2 or 3 years I was invited, whatever it was, I made up an excuse that I was busy. I couldn't make it.
Wow.
And the reason I did that is because the audience was, it was a nonprofit college fraternity leadership group. So it was all, in my mind, it was all these smart guys that were in college and this and that. And I didn't do college well. And I had this, dude, I think I was 38 or 40 at the time. I mean, think about that. And I was afraid to go talk to a group of smart college kids. Right. And,
is that an oxymoron like military intelligence?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And so I didn't go until the year I went. And the year I went, I reasoned with myself. I'm like, all right, if I don't walk into this punch, it's always going to haunt me. Like, I just got to go deal with this shit between my ears.
Right.
And, it's kind of like in fighting, hand to hand or boxing or whatever. Like if I get a punch to full force in your face, it's going to hurt more than if you run into the punch and I only get it a little bit of the way. And that's how I reason. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go deal with this because I'm tired of this crap just weighing me down. And, and so I booked a flight. I went down there, and it was funny, man. The first thing I saw when I walked in the room, and there's like 100 and something guys there and all this, is they had the wall of all the bios of the speakers.
Okay.
And there's this guy who's a billionaire, this guy who's another guy who's on the board. He's one of the big speakers, puts the event on. He owns 44 companies. One of them's Ticketmaster. He basically dug for water in the desert, and now we have Scottsdale and Troon Golf and all this other stuff. Like crazy. And this guy owns this big lumber company and this blah, 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 blah. And then it gets to me, and mine's literally like 3 sentences in a picture. It says Tom Reber, he's a former owner of a painting company outside of Chicago, and he's a Marine.
Now, but that says something, right? Think about it. That really says something. Former Marine, business owner, and you're on the same platform as these other people because your attitude was right.
I wish I would have had that I wish I would have reframed it like that. Because at the time I walked in, I said, yep, more fucking evidence that you haven't done shit in your life.
Right, that head trash, man.
And it was. And I'm like, that's all right. And so it's finally my turn. And there was this opening thing. They were introducing all the speakers to everybody. And then we were going to have a panel and a breakout and all this other crap. And I get up and I just go, let's own this shit. And I go, hey, I'm Tom. I didn't go to college. I think I'm stupid. I'm a Marine. I've owned a business. Maybe I have something of value to offer this week.
There you go.
It was like that. Okay. And I sat on this panel, and then they dismissed, and they put the speakers around the resort, like this
breakouts.
area by the pool, little breakouts. And, and they're like, yeah, Tom's going to be over here by this pool and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, God, I
better get a couple drinks. I'm going to be alone.
If I'm a college guy, what am I going to want if I show up? I'm like, buckets of beer. So I ordered, some buckets of beer. And, but here's the thing. Before the beer got there, about a third of the guys in the room were waiting for me.
Absolutely.
And what was funny is I asked one of them, I said, why are you here? And he says, because every year I come to this thing and they put these superheroes up on the stage, and it's nice to see a normal guy.
Oh, amen.
You know what I mean? And that was a little confidence boost. But here was the kicker, man. By the end of the week, all right, and this is the lesson for anybody struggling with their shit between their ears.
All right, let's do it.
Every good thing in my life right now.
And, man, you have a lot right now.
All right. I got an amazing relationship with my queen.
Yep.
I've got my kids, my businesses. Things are good. There's adversity. There's problems just like we all have. But I'm like, fuck, I'd never thought I'd be here. Dude, it all started when I made the decision to get on the plane and go to Cabo.
Right.
All right. And walk into the thing that scares me the most. On the last day, the board that puts this thing together with all these impressive guys, they have this meeting at this big round table overlooking this, I almost said the South China Sea. That was the Philippines. The Sea of Cortez.
Okay.
And just came up off the beach, and the billionaire guy says to my buddy who invited me, hey, we have our meeting. And then he looks at me, he goes, why don't you join us too? And I'm like, all right. So I go in, and there's this round table, and guys are coming in, but there's some open seats. And it's funny, Dave, I was like, well, God, you don't go into a meeting without something to write on and take notes. And we just came off the beach. So I'm looking around, I can't find a pen or anything. And I see in the trash can, there's this piece of paper that's crumbled up. And I think I still have the piece of paper. If not, I know I took a picture of it. I hope I have it. I found this piece of paper, and it was blank on the back side of it. Okay. I'm like, oh, I could use that. So I took it out, and I'm out in the hallway on the floor, like trying to flatten it out. And then I fold it in half so it's not as obvious, right?
Yeah.
And then I walk to the door, and there's some seats that are open. And then I'm like, I don't know where everybody sits. So I'm just going to wait to be invited to sit.
No.
Yeah, imagine that. And so finally someone's like, Tom, you sit right there. And I sit down. And then I'm like, I got the paper because I wanted to take notes about what was going on in the meeting in case they said, what are you thinking? I would know what I was thinking based on my notes, right?
Wow.
And so we get to the end of this meeting, and I'm jotting some notes down. They're talking about marketing shit. And at this point, man, I've been writing blogs. I've been doing podcasts. I've been learning the marketing game and all this other shit for my own businesses. And I'd put in the time. I put on the time. It was like in the batting cages, man. I was there. I was learning. I was growing. And they were having these couple problems marketing their event. And we're almost out of there. And this guy who owns this lumber company goes, the leader of the thing goes, all right, I think we're good. And the lumber company guy goes, well, wait a minute. Tom's new. I'm curious what he thinks about everything that we're talking about. And I looked down at my notes. And one of the things I also knew is this is a room of type A guys. On a disc profile, they're high D dominance, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a high D. I'm 100 on 100 on the D.
No,
and
not you.
Yeah. The number one way to communicate with a high D, at least on my profile, says be brief, be bright, and be gone.
That's right.
And Dave,
talk long, talk wrong, never talk again.
There you go. And about 45 seconds or so, I said, well, if I was in charge of this is what I'd do this, blah, 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 blah. And a couple heads are nodding, and I shut up. And the guy who runs the thing looks at his assistant, and he goes, do we have the capability to do everything he just said? And he goes, yeah. He goes, well, do what he just said, meeting adjourned. They all get up, and they walked away. And I'm sitting there. I'm sitting there. And they all leave the room. They're gone. And I get up, and I walk through this gorgeous double doors out onto this amazing place. I grab like a Pacifico or whatever it was sitting in the cooler there, and I pop one, and I'm looking out. It was like scripted for a movie because the sun was going down. It was like perfect out, right? And dude, this was the turning point, that hour at that table. And I said out loud, and I had tears in my eyes, I said, you're not fucking stupid.
Well, because I never ever thought you were.
But I did, and that's the most important thing, is what we believe. And Dave, what was funny, I was telling that story to a friend of mine, and they're like, well, number one, you waited to sit down. Number two, whatever happened up to that point in the week got you to the table. Number three, you didn't go in there empty-handed without something to write on. Number four, you understood who your audience was, and you spoke to your audience. And for me, that was a defining moment that I had to prove to myself that I could run with the big dogs. And since that day, it's not like all sunshine and rainbow since then, but it was what I needed to start to break through that crap between my ears. And that's why I want to tell people that whatever you're going through right now, that moment that you're looking for, or whatever, that success, that breakthrough, or whatever it is, it most likely will not happen until you choose to get uncomfortable. And it might be picking up the phone and calling somebody.
Right.
It might be that. It might be sharing with your significant other what you're really thinking, what you're really feeling. It's like, for me, doing that a lot of times, it feels like it's bigger than Pikes Peak.
Absolutely.
Like it's just this big thing of just sharing something. So, to me, the progress you want doesn't happen without at least getting real, owning your crap, and telling the truth. Like, let's just get honest, then we can start having some progress. And so for me, that was that day. One funny thing about this, though, you'll love. So I couldn't find a pen. I found that piece of paper, but I couldn't find a pen.
Yeah.
And I'm like, shit, man, gotta have a pen. I couldn't find a pen, and they were starting meeting, and I sat down. So every time the guy on this side of me would look that way, I'd grab his pen and I'd write something down and slide it back. And every time this guy would look that way, I'd grab his pen, I'd slide it back. I think I'm being all sly, right? And because most of the eyes weren't on me the whole time.
Sure.
I look across the table, and Jerry Nelson, he was the founder of Ticketmaster and stuff, was talking about, he's this older guy, he's in his 80s or whatever. He's leaning back in his chair.
Staring at you.
He's just watching me, and he's watching me. And I finally realized that he's on to me. And I just look, and I'm like, I just shrugged my shoulder. I'm like, I don't know. And he just kind of chuckled, and that was it. But I'm like sitting there doing anything I could to write shit down. And so I don't know, man. It's so much has happened since then. All good, even the bad.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I think I've either been blessed with, developed, or a little bit of both, is the ability to just shake shit off and keep moving, because and I think that's a blessing from my upbringing, honestly. If I look back and I'm like, so nothing really surprises me now. Like something goes wrong, of course it's going to go wrong. Not like in a pessimistic way, but like shit's just going to go wrong. And so, but the mission stays the same. We still have to do what we have to do. We still have to take care of the people that we love. We still need to get the help that we need, or whatever it is. And nothing will change that, regardless of how many times you're knocked off course.
That's right. Sounds like you got a powerful attitude shield to me. But I love the breakthrough, the figuring it out. That it's walking into that fear. It's walking into something that says you're not good enough, and smashing it in the face and saying, now watch me go. If I'd have been there, Tom, if I'd have been at Cabo and I read everything you just said on the wall, I'd have been like, he got here in 2 sentences. These guys got here in 50 paragraphs. I want to listen to the guy that got here in 2 sentences. Because I always get a kick out of people that have all these accolades. You know, it's
Yep.
like when I was, as you already know, I did 22 plus years in the Army, and I always promised that I wouldn't be the guy that got out of the Army and made sure everybody knew every second of my life that I was retired so-and-so. Yes, I introduced myself that way on the rant, but that's because I'm trying to explain how I'm here. But it makes me laugh because to me all those accolades say, this is my past. Well, what impact are you going to make on my today and my future to not have me waste my time? And that's why I love talking to people like you, Tom.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And by the way, we'd never know that you were in the service with your hair now. So
well, I have cut 10 inches off. Hey, I always said I was going to get out. I made a mistake, okay? I always said I'm getting out of the Army. I'm growing a beard. I'm growing my hair. I'm hanging out with my grandkids, and I'm probably going to get fat. Well, the fat was stupid. The hair's a pain in the ass, and I spent all day with the grandkids. So I was sort of right.
There you go. And that's the stuff that counts.
Right. So let's wrap this thing up, Tom. You got a hell of a mindset. Your operating script is powerful. But we're here to make connections with the people that are in a dark place. We're here to try to stop, prevent, put an end to, any way we can, the 22. Tom, if you were talking to somebody, a veteran of some kind, that was in a bad place and thinking about leaving, what would you say, brother?
Whew.
That's a heavy question, I know.
Regardless of how it feels, or even what evidence might be in front of you right now, you're not alone. You're not alone. That I don't know anybody, regardless of their success, lack of success, economic position, you name it. I don't know anybody that isn't in a dark place, now and then, and often it's more now.
Right.
And I think whatever you're going through, I mean, I would urge you to do something uncomfortable today, like we talked about earlier.
Right.
Just if you can't get out of bed, just get out of bed today. Okay. If you don't want to go to the gym, go for a walk. If you don't want to talk to anybody, just try to have a 10-second conversation with somebody. Like, just crack the door. I'm not asking, and I'm not encouraging anybody to, and I'm not going to pretend that I know everything that you're going through right now, because I don't. But all I know is there's a way, and it all starts with just a tiny little bit of progress, that will compound. And, we talked earlier, the compound effect and stuff. I mean, that's what it is. We're not asking, for you to go out and bare your soul to somebody if you don't ever want to talk to somebody, right?
Right.
And go join some self-help thing or go get counseling, but just have a conversation, smile at somebody. Like, just open the door to the possibility that there's a different day on the horizon coming your way.
And not to be too cliche, it's always darkest before the dawn, right?
It is. And sometimes it's dark really, really long.
Yep.
And, I've had times when I've been extremely down. I've had people that are very close to me, struggle with everything we're talking about here.
Yep.
And I could say confidently, if there's a common denominator that brings the sun up a little quicker, it's just be open to the possibility of connecting with another human being in some way, shape, or form. We're meant to connect.
Now you nailed that.
We're meant to connect. And it doesn't matter. Be you, take that step. I mean, you're right. This is the hardest questions I've ever been asked, because I understand the implications of this.
Yeah.
And I don't believe there's an easy fix. I don't believe it's going to be an easy road. I'm not minimizing this way, shape, or form. But I will tell you that once you commit to connecting with somebody, no matter how small of a step that is, that will help it get better in some way, shape, or form.
No, that's a home run.
You know what? And it might take a long time too. It might take a while, right? But that's why we need each other.
Right. Like you said, we're designed to be connected, and veterans need that connection, I think, just a little bit more than everybody else, because we got put 100%. Into a situation where the person left and right was our life.
Yeah.
Then we get out and we go looking for that. So if you're a veteran, realize that it is one of the things you need. It's now how you're wired, and go find it, even if it's 10 seconds a day. You know, one of my favorite things to talk about is if you improve 1% every day, by the end of the year, it's 365%. You'd be surprised how far you can get.
Yeah.
Well, connect for 10 minutes.
You know, and listen, the whole thing with connecting with another person, and again, not to be too cliche here, but I found this is true over and over, no matter how dark it is. When you can find anything in you that can give something to somebody else, it will help pull you a little further out of the mud.
Right.
Okay, so it might be as simple. If you're going to buy a fucking pack of smokes today, if you smile and look at the dude at 7-Eleven and go, hey, man, how's your day today? That's what I'm talking about. It doesn't have to be this gargantuan shit. Give, you know, earlier I talked about the tat on my arm here. You know, a dark world aches for a splash of the sun.
Correct.
Like if I could just go for 5 seconds giving some sort of sunlight to somebody else, it's going to reflect back to me.
Right. I mean, every single fire starts with just a little spark.
Yeah.
Maybe you're the spark for that person.
Yep. And, you know, there's old sayings like, hey, the best way to feel good about your life and what's going on is to go serve somebody else. Right. And I get that. Maybe you're in a position right now where that's the last thing on your radar. And I get it. I get it. But you know what? Be kind to your dog.
Right.
Start there. Right.
Yeah.
Send a text to a family member that you haven't talked to in a while and just tell them you love them. One of my brothers and I, we just reconnected. We had some stuff between us that actually, it's funny. It turned out we were both reading each other's fucking minds, and it turned out to be nothing. And we spent several years not connecting. We just hung out this past weekend and it was great. But it started with him, wasn't me, started with him sending me a text one night going, all right, are we going to deal with this shit or what?
Yeah, I love how people think they're mind readers.
Yeah.
I can barely read a book without falling asleep. How am I going to read your mind?
Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, man, it's a heavy question, but it ain't hopeless.
Nope.
It's not. And what you're going through is real. I ain't minimizing it. I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, somebody else has it worse or whatever. No, I don't give a fuck about that. Like, your pain is your pain.
Yeah.
We're not here to compare pain.
Well, it's not a competition, but it is a connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, and here's the other kumbaya moment, I guess, if you want to call it, is, you know, who was it? I think it's a guy named Sean Whalen, runs a thing called Lions Not Sheep. I think it was him that said, it might've been somebody else. I think I heard it from him, is your mess is also your message.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And so you probably have that right there, don't you? Yeah. Boom. So whatever you're going through right now.
Yeah.
You know, the bankruptcy I went through, that, I mean, I didn't get into this, but infertility and, you know, a bunch of other shit.
Yeah.
You know, those are things that I've been able to use to have an impact and connect with other people and be a resource for them. And so I would just tell anybody, you know, go back to when you joined the military, right? You wanted to have an impact.
Right.
And you've unfortunately, in a lot of ways, have been dragged through the mud, had the shit kicked out of you, experienced a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of darkness. Okay, but you can still have that impact. You can still wake up right now. In fact, right now when this podcast is over, you can put the damn phone or take the earbuds out or whatever it is, and you could pick up a telephone, you can send a text, and you could be a bright spot for somebody and have an impact right now. So step the fuck up and do that.
Agree with you 110%. I love the thought that maybe if I share, maybe if you share, maybe people share their mess, that might be somebody else's survival guide.
Yep.
You know, I want to keep you from going through the crap I went through, so here's why I share. But, Tom, I can't tell you how grateful I am for you coming on here and sharing your message of your mess with everybody listening.
Well, I'm honored, man. I really am. I appreciate the friendship that we've had and the impact you've had for me as well, buddy. Keep it up.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in to another edition of Veterans Rant, Rattle, and Roll. If you're ready to come on here and share your mess and make it a message to fellow vets, hit me up at veteransrrnr@gmail.com, because I'm not a fancy email haver. Between now and then, come on, keep your eyes up. Keep going forward. Don't give in to the darkness. Don't give in to the war within, because you are worth it. Put your toes back on the line. Step on them yellow footprints one more time, and let's keep going. Till the next time I talk to you, hey, it's Sergeant First Class Retired David L. Parker. I'm out.